Good afternoon, all of you. So now let us see the recent attack by Hamas on Israel. When you look at this map, you can see that this particular portion, this is Gaza Strip. ठीक है, ये Gaza Strip है, and this whole area, the dotted one, this is the West Bank, right? This is Palestine, and this whole you are looking at, this whole is Israel. So presently, Gaza Strip is being controlled by Hamas, which has been declared as a terror organization. Or what Hamas has done, that it has launched a sudden attack within 20 minutes. More than 5,000 rockets were fired. और वो कहाँ पे फायर हुए थे आप देख लो. मेनली कौन कौन से जगह पे आप तेल अवीव देख रहे हो, द कैपिटल ऑफ इजराइल. यू आर लुकिंग एट जेरूसलम, you are looking at all these, Beersheba, then Askelon. All these areas have been targeted, which are the main cities of Israel. And apart from that, the border has been breached. The terrorists from Hamas, they entered, they killed people, and they took many as hostage. And this is seriously an unprecedented situation for Israel, because it was only after 50 years that something like this has happened, and something like this had happened last time in 1973, Yom Kippur War, and that date was also 6th October, and this attack also took place on 6th October. So that is why when you will look at the news, you will find that similarities are being found between Yom Kippur War and this one. And why? Though in the Yom Kippur War, क्योंकि Yom Kippur War में कौन कौन था? इसमें सीरिया था, as well as Egypt was there. And though ultimately it was Israel who prevailed over Syria and Egypt, और उसके बाद फिर Camp David Accord, after which the relations between Egypt and Israel, they normalized. However, in the very beginning, the way Syria and Egypt had overwhelmed the Sinai Peninsula and Golan Heights, similarly something has happened now. So that is why this action is being considered as similar to Yom Kippur War. Then naturally another question that would have popped up in your mind, Israel has got this iron shield or iron dome. So what happened to the iron dome? So just look at this. This is a scenario that iron dome and how it prevents, क्योंकि iron dome is nothing but it is a set of surface to air missiles which tracks incoming missiles or drones and targets them in mid air. लेकिन यहाँ पे क्या हुआ कि ultimately within 20 minutes more than 5,000 projectiles or more than 5,000 missiles were targeted. So most of them, they were intercepted by Iron Dome, but many of them could not be, and they fell on the residential areas, and ultimately there was death and destruction. On the other hand, when you look at it, what had happened was कि in this Operation Al-Aqsa Storm, there were paragliders, speed boats, as well as motorcycle. It means through water, through air, as well as through land. So from all these three areas, the terrorists from Hamas, they had entered, they killed people, and they took a number of Israelis as hostage. Okay? And what has Hamas said is that this is in result of more than 16-year-old blockade of Gaza. When you look at this Gaza, let me say you something. When you look at this Gaza Strip, what happens here is that it has got this huge opening with the water and naturally you will think कि यहाँ से तो easily trade हो सकता है, but the point is कि एक तरफ से इसे इजिप्ट ने और बाकी 3 तरफ से इसे इजराइल ने, they have put a blockade and Israel even controls the airspace and it only permits the humanitarian assistance. ठीक है, so that is why there has been blockade, and blockade is not only by Israel but also by Egypt. Why? Because Egypt has got a fear that perhaps Muslim Brotherhood, which is a big threat to Egypt, they will start getting support from Hamas, and via Hamas the support will be from Iran. And you must be listening that Iran is very much vocal presently, because somewhere Iran has supported this attack by Hamas. And why Iran has supported that we shall be looking in subsequent pages. Now let us look at what are the steps that Israel has taken. So what has Israel done? Israel has invoked Article 40 after 50 years, and Article 40 it talks about that Israel is in a position of war and all the reserves they have been mobilized. More than 1 lakh soldiers they have been sent to Gaza Strip, and continuously it is being pounded. More than 300 people they have been killed, more than 1500 have been injured. That is the present status. And Israel has said that the civilians should evacuate Gaza within 24 hours, because after that air strike as well as land strike on Gaza that will continue. Okay, so let me take you to the background of this. If you look at the news, very recently Abraham Accord has been signed, right? Then I2U2 has been signed, and India, Middle East, Europe corridor has been planned. So when you look at all this, what do you find? You find that there are Arab states, right? And there is Israel. So ultimately the purpose is to normalize Arab-Israel relations, because continuously they cannot be conflict. And even Arab nations, even Saudi Arabia, it is looking कि धीरे धीरे oil जो है because of global warming oil का demand कम हो जाएगा. So Saudi Arabia is looking at modernizing its economy. उसके लिए Israel will be a very big support. Moreover, somehow violence should be restricted, so that कि only when violence is restricted, trade can continue. तो वो अगला फैक्टर है, ठीक है. और इसके कारण जो अरब नेशंस हैं, यूएई इट हैज ऑलरेडी नॉर्मलाइज्ड. रिसेंटली वी हैड सीन दैट इजरायली मिनिस्टर हैड विजिटेड सऊदी अरेबिया. जॉर्डन ऑलरेडी रिकॉग्नाइजेज, इजिप्ट ऑलरेडी रिकॉग्नाइजेज. सो इसके कारण समहाउ यूएस का पर्पस था कि इन ऑर्डर टू इंश्योर पीस इन द रीजन. और इससे क्या होता, ईरान जो था, ईरान रिलेगेट हो जाता, ईरान साइडलाइन हो जाता. दैट वाज अनदर फैक्टर. उसके अलावा जस्ट लुक एट द सिनेरियो. बहुत रिसेंटली क्या हुआ, जस्ट 2 weeks बैक इन सितंबर मंथ, अराउंड 28th of September, देयर वाज अ न्यूज कि इजराइल ने अपना जो इराज बॉर्डर है उसे ओपन कर दिया. ये जो इराज बॉर्डर क्रॉसिंग है, इट इज बिटवीन गाजा एंड इजराइल. And this was because of Gaza population, the people they were protesting continuously. Reason being, the economic situation in Gaza is very dire. More than 40% people are below poverty line, and in recent times the Hamas administration, it had cut down the salaries of government employees by 50%. तो वहां खाने की दिक्कत थी, इनकम नहीं है, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट है। एंड व्हेन गाजा पीपल दे कम फॉर वर्क इन नंबर थाउजेंड्स, व्हेन दे कम टू वर्क फॉर इजराइल, इनकी जो सैलरी होती है वो 10 टाइम्स रहती है कंपेयर्ड टू व्हाट दे वुड हैव गॉट इन गाजा। सो देयर वाज अ प्रोटेस्ट एंड दिस हैड बीन मेडिएटेड बाय कतर, और इजराइल ने अपने बॉर्डर खोल दिए। ठीक है, बिकॉज समवेयर इजराइल वाज आल्सो थिंकिंग कि अगर इकोनॉमिक रिलेशंस बहुत अच्छे होते हैं, इफ देयर इज इंप्रूवमेंट इन इकोनॉमिक रिलेशंस, तो अल्टीमेटली उसका इफेक्ट क्या होगा कि देयर विल बी सिविलियन प्रेशर ऑन द हमास एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इन गाजा नॉट टू गो फॉर एनी मिस एडवेंचर विथ इजराइल, क्योंकि अभी जब हमास मिस एडवेंचर के लिए गया है, हु विल बी अल्टीमेट सफरर्स? इट विल बी द सिविलियन पॉपुलेशन इन गाजा, राइट? उसके अलावा क्या हुआ, जब आप देख रहे हो अब्राहम अकॉर्ड है, I2U2 है, IMEC कॉरिडोर है, so Hamas was also seeing that the Palestinian issue it was continuously getting sidelined, and उसके साथ साथ क्या था, ईरान was also getting sidelined, क्योंकि अरब और इजराइल का रिलेशन if it gets improved, then ultimately who is the outlier in the West Asia? It will be Iran, a major player, as well as a partner of Iran, the Syria it will be, right? So इसके कारण ईरान भी देख रहा था, and after this attack you will find that Iran has supported this, Iran has praised this, and Iran and Iraq both have called for the meeting of this OIC, Organization for Islamic Cooperation. So somewhere Iran is trying to gain that diplomatic mileage and scuttle this process of normalization of relation between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Right? Now let us look at the response of other nations. Responses you can simply categorize between two categories. Whosoever the Western nations are, they have criticized, they have condemned the terror attack on Israel. If you talk towards Muslim nations, within Muslim nations there are two factions. All of them are saying that this is because of the continuous repression and there is a need for two-state solution, and even Iran has, even Saudi has said that, even Arab League has said that. But when you look at Pakistan, when you look at Iran, when you look at Syria, they all have supported the actions of Hamas. China has also talked about there is a need for two-state solution. And when you look at India's statement, just look at the statement, the tweet by Prime Minister Modi. He did not say that the conflict is between Palestine and Israel. He said that about terror attack on Israel and we stand by Israel in this time. So he is not saying that this is ultimately any conflict between Israel and Palestine, but it is a terror attack, and naturally India has a principled position that we are against any act of terrorism. So if tomorrow there is a thing that India's stance is changing, India can simply say that no, our stance has not changed, but we are against any form of terrorism, and Hamas is a recognized terror group. Okay? Then the most important player, that is USA. What has been the USA's step? USA said that we are in support, and it has also sent its aircraft carrier as well as missile destroyer. Reason being, there are still reported at least 4 US citizens who have been killed. And this is one dimension. Another dimension is that elections in USA are approaching, and Biden is in a weaker position. So had he not taken a proactive stance in support of Israel, naturally the conservatives, that is from the Republican Party, they would have simply pounced on Biden. because the Republican Party, they have given very strong backing to this Israel. Okay, so that is the response of USA. Now let us look at some of the very important aspects of the attack, which is important for you to understand this whole issue. The very first thing is that, as I had said you in the very beginning, कि 50 years of यौम किपुर वॉर, तो ये भी जो हुआ था ये भी 6 अक्टूबर को हुआ था इन 1973, और इसमें भी क्या हुआ था कि this Egypt and Syria, they were there. Initially they had overwhelmed, but then it was Israel who retaliated and took all those areas, both Sinai Peninsula as well as Golan Heights, into its own country. That is the first thing. Second thing, this is also being seen as a failure of Israel intelligence agencies. You must have heard about Mossad, right? Then there is another intelligence agency, that is Shinbet. Shinbet, this is Israel's internal, जैसे कि हमारा इंटेलिजेंस ब्यूरो है ना, ये इजराइल का इंटेलिजेंस ब्यूरो है और ये इजराइल का रॉ है, ठीक है ना। राइट, सो क्योंकि सिचुएशन ऐसा था कि पहले इजराइल कुड सिंपली प्रीएम्प्ट एंड प्रिवेंट, बट द क्वेश्चन इज कि हाउ डिड दिस हैपन कि इजराइल कुड नॉट प्रीएम्प्ट दिस, एंड देयर आर टू फैक्टर्स बीइंग सेड इनटू प्ले. The first thing is that Israel had its focus on Iran, and Israel was just focused on preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. That is the first thing. And the second thing is that this within Israel also, if you can recall, because of the changes with respect to legislation, there was widespread protest, and even some factions of its military, they were against those laws. So as a result, it is being said that perhaps the more focus was internally rather than externally, that is in Gaza Strip or other area, and that is another factor why this took place. And what has Hamas called? Act against suppression. And then another very important aspect is that there have been fire exchanges from Hezbollah from Lebanon, a Shia militant group which is again supported by Iran. So if Hezbollah starts attacking and if Israel starts responding, then naturally the war will expand from Hamas, it will go to Lebanon, then ultimately Iran may come into support of Lebanon, Syria will come into support of Lebanon, and if Syria gets involved seriously in Lebanon, perhaps Russia will come into support of Syria, and the war can take a much bigger canvas. लेकिन इसके chances बहुत कम हैं, because even Russia has got very good relations with Israel, तो उसके chances बहुत कम हैं. और उसके आगे का क्या है कि this is being seen as an effort to derail the Arab-Israel normalization of relations. ठीक है. So next question naturally which will come to your mind कि if okay, this was an effort to derail the Arab-Israel normalization of relations, what are the further challenges if this conflict is going to expand or it is going to remain the same? So you see, यहाँ पे दिक्कत क्या है जो मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ. यहाँ पे दिक्कत ये है कि अभी की जो इजराइल की गवर्नमेंट है वो अब तक की सबसे राइट विंग गवर्नमेंट है. सो एक्सपेक्टेड ये है कि ये लोग सीधे का सीधा बहुत ज़्यादा अटैक के लिए जाएं, और जो हमास भी एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा है कि इजराइल हमें अटैक करे. रीज़न बीइंग, अगर इजराइल अभी अटैक करता है तो चूंकि गाजा स्ट्रिप बहुत ही डेंसली पॉपुलेटेड है, सो कोई भी अटैक, कोई भी मिलिट्री एक्शन में देयर विल बी सिविलियन कैजुअलिटी, और जब सिविलियन कैजुअलिटी होगी देयर विल बी प्रेशर ऑन अरब नेशंस, देयर विल बी प्रेशर फ्रॉम वेस्टर्न नेशंस, और जो नॉर्मलाइजेशन का एफर्ट है दिस कैन बी स्कटल्ड. सो अगर आपको लगता था कि गाजा ने ये, हमास ने ये करके गलती कर दी, तो हमास जानबूझकर उसने ये गलती की है क्योंकि वो चाहता है कि इजराइल उस पर वापस अटैक करे, और सिविलियन कैजुअलिटी हो। दूसरी बात रही राइट विंग गवर्नमेंट की, तो दोनों के दोनों जो इजराइल की अपोजिशन पार्टीज हैं, बेनी गैंट और याइर लपीद, both of them have supported Netanyahu. So it is expected that Netanyahu, he will not be that much aggressive in his military action. What I can see is that perhaps this conflict might continue with for 2 to 3 weeks, something like that, into the Gaza Strip, and they will take whole of Gaza Strip into their control, and they will go for complete blockade, and then Mossad will come into action, and slowly and silently they will simply start eliminating each and every individual associated with Hamas, because more than 400 casualty for Israel is a very big number, and Israel will never take this laying low. But at the same time, Israel also has to ensure that its normalization of relations with Arab must not get scuttled. So, though it will act forcefully, but at the same time, it will also be very silent, so that the posturing, the positioning, the global messaging, that remains very much normal and very much in line with, what should I say, a more responsible nation. Thank you very much.